Once upon a time, there was a creaking, tired old bed frame, the kind that everyone dreads when they've longed for a silent night's sleep, and would happily end up trading their right arm for a bit of peace and quiet by 2 a.m. Oh, please! This creaking, tired old bed frame had seen very many years of service, and over the years had developed something of a sigh that was all of its own. It was a rather mournful wail, with a sloping, stepping down tone whenever anyone sat on it, which made you think that it might have lost its life partner years before, but never quite recovered from it, or perhaps just broken the very last plate from its favourite dinner service. What a shame! Poor exhausted bed frame. You'd think it was long past its time to become firewood, or rest its ornate bedhead in the likes of an old barn store until the worms got to it, wouldn't you? But it just so happened that this creaking, tired old bed frame was lucky, or unlucky, to have been solidly built into the walls of a high-flying business hotel. And so, because it was part of the original features, the mountain of paperwork required to renovate it really wasn't worth it, according to the manager, who thought paperwork was for bonfires, at best. So as some sort of 5-star remedy, his idea was to build big, brashy, sound-bouncing speakers into the bedsides, so that high-flying business types could dock their iPods and so drown out the mournful creaking wail of the bed frame, at least until they were deeply asleep and making a fair few mournful wails of their own. So, most occupants of the room where the creaking, tired old bed frame lived its life never even noticed an issue. They'd be YouTubing on the 52-inch plasma screen or shuffling a playlist to keep them awake whilst they rewrote their presentations, because their petty-minded bosses had infuriatingly dictated that they had to, at the very last minute, without quite telling them why. Or maybe they'd be Skyping someone, erotically, who they thought was exotic, and whose squeaks were the only ones that they were tuned into. Whatever the distraction, the true sound of the high-flying type surroundings was pretty easily drowned out by the souped-up soundtrack that, sadly, seemed to be the automatic accompaniment to all their noisy, demanding lives. It just seemed to be the way with the high-flying types who stayed in the creaking, tired old bed frame's room. Loud and distracted souls, not at all observant of the tired old bed frame's creaks. So the manager clearly knew his clientele very well. Then one day, a lady stayed in the room where our creaking bed sat. She had worked hard and long in a tough, high-flying world for years, too many to remember, but with too few left to feel that she could really do anything else. But the stress of the keeping up was really catching up with her. Utterly exhausted as she stumbled through the door with her trusty wheeled suitcase, which collapsed onto its face on the floor just as she wanted to. Within minutes she was peeling off the severe control underwear she hooked herself into daily, and sliding into the soft, fluffy bathrobe, very loosely tied, instead. But before she let herself sink onto the bed she was longing for, carefully she removed and matched up her earrings and their fastenings, and then she even more carefully unpicked the tiny hearing aids that she applied with her earrings each morning. She hid them in such a way that no one would see why she sometimes took a little bit longer to participate in discussions than her eager, younger, I know, pick me, I'm brilliant, colleagues, who had no understanding of silence. And then she let herself flop down heavily, not at all prettily, into the creaking, tired old bed frame, keeling like an elephant shot with a dart. As she landed, heavy-backed and legs flailing akimbo, she felt in her heart the echo of a strange, mournful wail of understanding as the tired old bed frame embraced her richly and deeply. "Oh, you beautiful bed," she sighed with a sloping, stepping down tone, and she swam deliciously in its cool sheets. She even did a few backstrokes and leg swishes, which prompted a whole new range of creaks and groans, which of course she didn't hear. Not even a squeak. But she felt the bed sing with her, and somehow her vibration must have been exactly in harmony with the bed frame itself. For although she couldn't hear it, I swear that as she told the story to me, I heard the very lowest note of a cello, slow and deep, rumbling and soothing, like a bow that had finally touched its long-lost string. And a perfect night's sleep had followed, one that you would trade both arms and a leg for. Or maybe the most profound trade that was made on that night was an instant love for something misfit and misplaced, swapped for the spark of a perfect idea. Yes, at something like 2 a.m, our quiet, tired lady made a silent promise to herself to exchange her creaking, old, high-flying life for a small, quiet bijou gift store in the countryside. A silent promise she would take very seriously indeed, immediately after her BlackBerry rudely vibrated her awake the next morning for the delight of a breakfast meeting. And for many years after, our lady would enjoy the hunt to find a bed that was just like our beautiful, tired old bed frame. These were much, much happier days for her, not just because of the fun of the hunt, but because she never once had to hook herself into severe control underwear or weave secret aids up into her ears to hear corporate high-flying discussions that frankly bored her rigid anyway. And, though many wondered why she would attempt it, she also took up lessons to learn to play the cello.